Hey, we're here with book publisher extraordinaire, TEDx keynote speaker Erik Seversen. And Erik has lived an extraordinary life. He's hitchhiked from London to Central Africa. He's lived with a remote tribe in the Amazon, and he's built and sold businesses. Erik has published 15 best-selling books on the topic of mindset, peak performance, and AI. He has helped over 300 people become best-selling authors, and he knows all kinds of amazing things about book publishing, time management. You'd have to get all those sorts of things accomplished, and especially marketing and entrepreneurship. So Erik is here to tell us what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, how maybe we should give ourselves a break, but also achieve so much more. So Erik, glad to be speaking with you.
Glad to be speaking with you, Robert. I love to see all the things you've got going on LinkedIn. I've heard your show before, so I'm happy to be here as a guest now.
Oh yeah, and LinkedIn is great, right? To get the kind of I don't know if the swipe file is the right word, because it used to be you'd see someone make a web page, you'd say, "Ooh, I like what they did with that headline. Let me steal it, but not steal it." But then with LinkedIn, you say like, "Oh well, Erik, he's like promoting about his authors, and he's posting like just a graphic saying like, hey, this author's in this book," and I'm like, "Hey, I see that enough times, and it's like better than the swipe file, right? It gets kind of embedded into your frontal cortex, and then you're like, well, hey, now I'm just helping out authors and promoting their book covers and talking about my people without even thinking about it, because months ago Erik was the role model and I saw his posting. And so tell me about some of this stuff. Like you put out books all the time. When I prospect on Amazon for like authors to do their audiobooks podcast, I keep on coming across you, right? I keep on coming across these compilation books that you do. So what is your kind of secret sauce uniqueness?
Okay, the first I'll start with, I'm so honored to get to work with all of these great authors and getting to post about them. And there's no way I'd be able to rub shoulders with many of these people if it weren't for working on these book projects together. And it all kind of happened by accident. I was speaking 100% full time when COVID-19 happened, and so then I dove back into books. And my first book caused that, led to it. And I realized that it would take me 2 years to write a high quality book, but I decided I need to get some help with people who know this idea as well as I do, or even better, and create my idea in a co-authored book. So the first one was The Successful Mind. This started it all I started it in March 2020, The Successful Mind. And it's all about what creates productivity, happiness, and success in somebody's life. And I got all these different opinions from different people around the world, from a medical doctor, a yoga instructor, a pastoral counselor, a firewalking instructor from India, and all of these great minds about a single topic. And I thought that book was a one and done to figure out what to do with my next stage in life now that my speaking 100% dried up in 2020. But that has led to 16 of similar books, all dealing with mindset and productivity, and meeting these authors from gold medal Olympic winners, somebody who's climbed Everest, somebody who rowed a boat across the North Atlantic from New York to Ireland, and one of the founders of Hotmail. So from billionaires to people who have just done interesting things, I get to talk with them. And Robert, it has bumped my game up so much. So it's an honor to be able to, pretty much every day I share one author highlight of one of the authors in one of the previous books. So it's such an honor to get to do that and share these amazing people.
I love it. And everybody benefits, don't they? Because say that guy that rowed the boat across the Atlantic, well, he's done this. I mean, I can't even imagine rowing a boat a mile or two,
Right.
never mind in the crazy ocean waves, but he's done this like crazy thing. But then write a book, like we can't accomplish everything, right? We can't just you can't look at all the achievements everyone's made and say, hey, I'll just do all that in my life, right? There's only so many skills, only so much time. So I can definitely see the value in someone saying, well, hey, I've got this great message to share. Maybe they're a speaker, maybe they've thought about writing a book, but they're like, hey, filling all of this content, I don't know if I have the time or if I can have the patience for that. So I love this idea of like the chicken soup for the soul book, is
Yeah.
like when I first came across this concept decades ago, right? Of just like all these different kind of points along the road. And one thing that has always kind of piqued my curiosity about the compilation books is where they go wrong. Because I knew a guy, because like you say, you've got this mindset book, everyone's got their perspectives. And I knew a guy once who saw how so-called easy it was, and he made a compilation book about membership sites. And then the problem with that was you had all these authors who were all competing with each other, right? People had different kinds of pieces of software. So has this ever crossed your mind? Like, are there like do's and don'ts with the compilation book? Or do you ever say like, hey, such and such topic, maybe like weight loss sounds like an interesting idea, but if everyone conflicts or everyone's promoting competitors, like we don't want that. So like, where do you see compilation books maybe going wrong?
Yeah, and for me, one of the main things is yes, you can if they're competing for the same thing. However, I want to have multiple perspectives. So I had one book called, it was actually the second one, a continuation of that, called The Successful Body: Using Fitness, Nutrition, and Mindset to Live Better. And we had one chapter about the caveman diet, about why carnivore diet is healthy for us. And we have a different chapter about why being vegan is the way to go. And so you had these two people with their own experiences, and a lot of them had background as well of why. And you know what? Both can be successful. It's not an either or necessarily. Some readers are going to resonate with one chapter and totally disagree with one, and some are going to resonate with another one. But at least now we get the full array of perspectives, and we can see. The biggest mistake I made in the first book, and part of the second one too, was trying to direct what the authors wrote. Nancy Pyle is the professional content editor that I work with. In the first book, we tried to figure out, all right, here's the puzzle piece. We want them to write about this and this. And then they write their chapter and we say, okay, can you tweak it this way to really fit in with what we're doing? And we realized that was a big mistake. It was so much better to just let the authors have freedom to write about what they want. Yet Nancy still will put a red line through the book. So if there's a book called Peak Performance Mindset Tools for Managers, and the writer kept talking about leaders and leadership, she might just switch the word from leader to manager or leadership to management a few times throughout the chapter, so that there still is a red line going through a thin red line going through the whole book as a whole. So the biggest thing is, I'd say, mistake, trying to put the authors in a box. Letting them go free. And I've had multiple times where I have the same book, have multiple authors write about the same idea. For example, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. I might have a book about performance, and we have two authors who are neuro-linguistic programming experts. But they come from such different experiences. They're complementary rather than negating each other, so to speak, because they say different things.
All right. So those are good lessons, right? Be complimentary and then have the red line through the book. So that way there's a little bit of finesse, a little bit of randomness, but you're not just trying to make everything exactly the same. And I've definitely noticed, like, I've changed my, I guess, reading perspective over the years. When I was younger, I was like, it has to be step by step. If I read something, if I learn something, I have to do it in order. And now that I am maybe a little bit older, a little more flexible, I embrace the randomness. If I come across some kind of random book or YouTube video, I'll be curious and I'll say, I'll learn about this concept about space, about planets in other galaxies or something, and just be like, it doesn't affect my exact day-to-day life, but sometimes I'm open to the new ideas and the curiosity, and I learn stuff and I have some fun with that. And so we're definitely here to hype up and talk up this idea of compilation books, and especially you doing them. And I guess the draw many times in someone contributing a chapter to this is, they can be paired with these other amazing co-authors. And then the idea is that all the resources are pooled and that the book launch is bigger than if they did it by themselves. There's that African proverb, like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about just the amazing book launches that you do and what you do in order to make sure that these books just get noticed?
This is a great question, Robert. So yeah, my first book did really well. And like I said, that single-handedly led to full-time speaking. I left my position as vice president of international business development for a multi-$100 million company to speak full-time, all because of a book I published with no agenda at all. The speaking requests came in from it. But then when that died up, I started going to the co-authored book projects. And now the first book that was published did so much better than my solo book. And I'm like, why didn't I think that having 33 authors supporting this book launch would be way more strong than my solo book launch? And so that's a big part about it. And a neat thing also is, like, for example, the last book we produced, the AI Mindset. It's basically the idea is we want to have a mindset as AI is taking over our planet or integrating into our planet. And the goal of that book is so people become excited about AI and optimistic, yet also cautious about what could happen with the dangers of AI. And in that book ended up to become bestseller in the USA, France, Italy, and Brazil. Why? Because we had some really influential authors from those countries. So during the book launch, their followers really supported the book launch as well. And what's great, Robert, is a lot of these people don't have time right now to write their full book. A lot of them already have their own book. Maybe probably a small percent already have their own books out before they co-write. Most don't. So they co-write this book. It becomes a bestseller. And then 4 years later or 2 years later, they write their solo book. Now they've already got a popular book on their Amazon bookshelf. So then when they get their own book out there, there's a little bit of a feed from the really publicized popular book with 33 authors that goes towards their solo book when it comes out, which is great. And I love seeing authors write one chapter and their eyes are open to how much they love writing, and they end up writing more, including their solo book.
You get a little taste of it. You say, well,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I saw the fun in writing this book, and I wrote my chapter. I wrote kind of the piece of it that excites me now, and I saw a little bit of a reward, and so why not keep that party going? And so that's a great benefit that I hadn't even thought about. That if someone's been like waiting or trying for like 5-10 years to write a book and they're starting from scratch, that's not a lot of fun. But they publish that chapter with you, and they already have some traction there. Maybe they already have their Amazon bio page already filled out. And I mean, there's always these hidden benefits to writing a book, and especially with these platforms. Like I didn't even know until a couple years ago that people followed me on Amazon. Like when you see an author, you click the follow button, and I was like, there was like 998 followers. I didn't even know where they came from. So when I launched the next book, sure, you post to social media, and your list and the traffic, but then there's also like those built-in followers that all get, and we all get anyone who buys books on Amazon gets that kind of email or that pop-up. I think I get some from you every now and then from your co-authors I've come across. If someone's bought our book before or follow that author, they come out with something new, and then there's that extra notification. And so as far as everything that can be done to promote a book, right? There's Amazon ads, there's YouTube, there's social media, there's all these other authors where they post on their own platforms. Do you have a favorite traffic source or favorite way to sell some books?
One of the things that I think is most important is keywords. There's actually a software program. So I started coaching a lot of the prior authors when they were writing their own books, coaching them how to get their book published. And I now have created an online program called Self Publishing Center, selfpublishingcenter.com. And on that, there's a link to a software that allows me to type in potential keywords, and it's going to tell me how many people are searching for that word on Amazon per month and what the competition is. So I will type in for 10 minutes just random keywords. And for example, a mountain climbing book on Kilimanjaro, I might write, mountain climbing Kilimanjaro, and it tells me how many people are looking, how many or what the competition is. But then I might just write hiking Kilimanjaro books, and it tells me, and I'll be able to really hone in on exactly what the best keywords are. You can do it for categories as well on that site. And so that's one of the things that I think really helps, is having that strategy to really get the keywords that people are looking for, but there's not a lot of competition. The second thing is during book launch to try and get a lot of verified purchase reviews right away. And so I have the books during book launch are priced for volume over royalties, so that I get people to read them and get some verified purchase reviews. And that helps with the algorithms as well. There's a kind of two things right away that seem to really help the book launches.
I love it. And this is like it's kind of paradoxical because on one hand, it's some of these ideas you're mentioning are fundamental to marketing, but a lot of people don't even know about this, right? They don't
Right.
even know that they can go to selfpublishingcenter.com and check out your course and do some of this keyword research. And like this is an idea that has existed maybe not since like the internet started, but since search engines started, right? That people type in keywords, or now with AI, they get kind of shown keywords based on their past behavior, but similar idea, right? Keyword leads to the book in some way. It's some kind of path, either Amazon search or just a path from the search engine optimization. And we want the kind of low competition, but also high demand. And it can be tough to get one's head around this idea because maybe someone isn't marketing focused. Maybe they are passionate about mountain climbing. They say, I could care less about, or I couldn't care less, to be grammatically correct with someone like you. I couldn't care less about keywords. So that's why someone like Erik and his team should be doing this for me. And so I'm always in awe at these people that really have book launches dialed in at the timeline or at the upfront work that they do it, right? They follow up with the co-authors so many times. They create so many marketing materials because there's so much gets ignored on the internet, right? So many lurkers. We have to put so much marketing in place just to get a tiny little percentage, but that's how we beat other people. And when people talk about like book launches, like 6 months or a year, or like all these speaking gigs, I'm like so impressed by the volume. And I'm like, if I can learn from that and apply just a small fraction of what they do, then man, that would really up my game as far as book sales. And so with the, is there anything to say about like the unexpected amount of work that's done with these book launches in order to like get to the numbers, the sales that you achieve?
Yeah, one is that, like I said, the verified purchase reviews. Usually what I'll do is I'll find somebody who's outside of my inner circle. So, not going to be my wife or someone super close to me, but somebody outside my circle, and I say, hey, do you mind buying the book launch and writing the review? And one of the things I found is that everybody's going to say yes, but then we get busy. We're just in busy lives, right? But it's really important. So if I ask 20 people, 17 of them are going to say yes, and they're not going to decide not to do it. They're going to forget to do it. And so I have learned that if I seriously want these, because they do help the book launch, they're important for the book launch, I need to be a little bit proactive and say, hey, did you write that review by chance? Oh no, I'm going to get to it tomorrow. And sometimes I follow up 2 or 3 or 4 times, and I don't want to be a pain to them. But and if I say, if you don't want to, that's fine. However, if you do, would you mind doing it by tomorrow, because it's kind of important for the book launch? And so just kind of, I don't like to bug people. That's part of my nature. So I have to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and follow up with them and realize that they do want to help me. And so I'm not pestering them and begging them to do it. I'm just reminding them, because in our busy lives, it's really easy to just forget about it and let it go off without happening.
100%. We all get distracted, right? We all make promises, and even it's not like we flake, so to speak. We just forget we made the promise. We wanted to do a nice thing, and we just needed that extra little bit of follow up. And that's a mindset that is on my mind all the time. That they used to say, well, it takes 7 follow-ups to get a sale, and then they said like 8 to 12. And even these days, I'm like, it takes 8 to 12 follow-ups just to get someone on a Zoom call, just to get someone to reply to an email. So with that expectation, we can say, well, let's kind of navigate the back and forth of, okay, well, I don't want to be like annoying or too persistent, but I also want to get some results, and all the more reason to work with someone like you to plan ahead, because you and I have been saying many times in this conversation, it's so easy to get distracted, so easy to get busy. You put all this time into writing a book, and then you had to get back to, coaching clients or 9 to 5 or whatever, and then to keep revisiting this book launch, it makes a lot more sense to work with a team, to work with people that kind of eat, breathe, and sleep the stuff. That way they can just say, hey, well, this is our focus. This is what we do. And so, like, you've put out so many amazing books, helped so many amazing authors. I know it's a really loaded question, but is there a logical entry point? I know you said like those first couple books, it took a while to get like gelled, dialed in. And so is there like a book that you feel is, I don't know if it would be like the best, but if someone says, let me find out what Erik's and his authors are all about, is there a best book and is there a best author?
So, no is the quick answer. However, one of them is definitely the most popular, and it happens to be the first book, The Successful Mind. And it's basically, that one is, Jarir Bookstore bought the Arabic rights for it, and they're selling that book in the Middle East. It's in 2 university classrooms, so that one has gotten kind of the most fanfare. And the exposure wise, the last one, the AI Mindset, just because it's so timely right now, this one has volume wise actually probably done the best. And then there's one, The Successful Spirit. This one is what kind of changed a little bit from mindset to performance. And in that one, we had 3 Olympians wrote it months before the Tokyo Olympics, and then 2 of them won medals. And one of them actually competed again in the last Olympics, Gabby Thomas, and she got 3 golds, I think, and in track and field. And so that was really fun to have these authors write about their performance style and then compete in the Olympics and prove it with gold medals, which is pretty cool. And the reader feedback from that book really pushed me in the direction of performance and productivity. And so I follow the reader feedback. My number one goal is that the readers get value. My second goal is that the authors also benefit from being part of the books as well. But so reading that somebody's life changed because of a chapter they read. And usually it's the author who will forward me an email and say, hey, look, a reader sent this to me. I just thought I'd let you know. And it's some reader who wrote directly to this author who wrote one chapter saying, here's where I was a year ago. Here's where I am now. I owe 100% of it to this chapter. Thank you very much. And it gives me goosebumps every time I read those.
Of course, that's got to be an amazing feeling for everyone involved, especially the author who received it and then pass it on to you. And so I love this idea of the feedback loop of saying, well, we'll put out a book and then we'll look at what people like the most about it and get that kind of intuitively within us. And then moving forward, we say, well, hey, let's do more of that. And so it's always so much fun to say, like, geek out about books, because like your shtick is to get people gathered together, and you can read about book publishing all day long or what's possible or read books, but then just to get that infectious energy with something, it's like you experience it and it's so much fun. And in our last few minutes here, I want to make sure that we cover the bases. So is there like a missing hidden question that I just don't know to ask you that I should be asking you?
No, there's not, but I love what you're doing, Robert. I just love how active you are, helping people with their podcasts, helping people with their audiobooks, publishing. Just, you're one of those people who I love to see in action, because I think, sure, we all want to make money. That's a goal. But I think you do it to be helpful first, with the residual impact that you make money from it. And I really love seeing that, Robert. We need that's a model of person that I like to be around.
Yes, 100%. We want to be around people that are also achieving, that challenges us, that encourage us. And we're both compilation book. I don't know if like buddies is the right word, but I have a client where I put out 15 compilation books with 120 authors over like 4 years. So some of these stories that you're mentioning, and especially like moving the authors along, being like, hey, get that chapter in. There's a lot of, it can be a lot of fun, right? It's adventurous. And so if someone says, okay, I love what Erik has going on. The book covers look amazing. The stories look amazing. The people are great. It's great to have a team that can do the book launch with me. Don't have to write so much. Be associated with amazing people, Olympic medalists, and who knows what. What's the next step here? How does someone know if they're a good fit for these compilation books, and how do they take the next step and find you and contact you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty hands-on. So my email is eric@ericseversen.com. The website, I've got ericseversen.com is my personal website, and then the business website, of course, is selfpublishingcenter.com. People can contact me directly from any of those sources. And for the co-authored books, there is if it's somebody I've spoken with, they're kind of in if they want to, if we have a good conversation. But also there's an application process for people to be part of the books. But for writing a solo book, that's where a lot of people reach out to me. And one of my favorite things to do is show people how simple it is to go from idea to completed manuscript. And then the next stage is from manuscript to published book. And then last stage is the book launch. And so my whole goal is to make it as simple as possible, to take that mystery out. And particularly writing the book, I think the biggest mistake people have is they think of the whole book at once and they freak out. They just get paralyzed. When my biggest advice at the start is only think of one small section at a time. 5 sections becomes a chapter. 15 chapters becomes a book. It's going to get there, but only think of it as one tiny section at a time. And everything starts with one step, as they say.
I love it. And I think when I was a kid, I got stuck in that problem of like having like the most grandiose, epic outline and scope. And then I just kept revising that. And I'm sure there was some kind of procrastination, self-sabotage involved. But then as far as the writing advice, when they say, well, hey, if you have this big like epic whatever plan, just look for like the most exciting part of that. And there's something like Arthur C. Clarke's got his book 2001, but then there was a short story called The Sentinel where they discovered the monolith, and like he started with that. And it's kind of like more micro commitments, right? You figure out what is the most exciting part, that takes shape, and then that can be the version of your chapter that goes in the compilation book. You get some feedback, people use it, you see some sales, you get excited, and you say, all right, now that might even change the trajectory of the larger picture just based on what the feedback, because it's based on what people like, what helps people, not just what I imagined in my own head. So we said selfpublishingcenter.com. And then from there, we can go and find the applications, or we can find your email address. And as far as social media, where should we go?
LinkedIn is by far my most powerful. I'm on, LinkedIn, I'm on X, I'm on Instagram, but really LinkedIn is where I'm most active, and it's Erik Seversen on LinkedIn.
All right. And that's what we should all aspire to, right? Especially authors, to say like, well, can I get my name registered? If possible, great. And can I get the same username across all platforms? Even better that way. If someone is listening to a podcast or watching YouTube and say, hey, I really like what this person has to say, well, let me see if they have a book. Oh, geez. Let me see if they have a book, and maybe it's a book that they are a co-author with one of Erik's amazing publications. So Erik Seversen on social media platforms, selfpublishingcenter.com. And before I let you go, Erik, it's time to put you on the spot and ask a question that I asked my guests at the end here, which is there a fun quote or lesson that has served you, helped you in the past in life or business that you can pass on to us?
I think the biggest is I love being in a room that makes me uncomfortable. I didn't know what imposter syndrome was, but when I had it, and now when that feeling of imposter syndrome comes up, I revel in it because it makes me know that I'm pushing myself. I want to be uncomfortable because of the people I'm around, because I feel they're all better than me, and it helps me feel better or grow, push myself to be as good as I can. So I think that's it.
I love it. It's very well put that we should pursue being uncomfortable. Sometimes you think about imposter syndrome as something bad or to be avoided, but you're saying pursue that because that is the path to growth. And especially for you authors out there who want to grow and who want to become published authors with Erik's help, that's erikseversen.com and selfpublishingcenter.com. We will see you there. And thanks, Erik, for enlightening us, being cool, sharing some cool stories. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Robert.
All right.